Hello everybody and welcome back to another installment from our series Straight from the Horse's Mouth. Today's webinar focuses on the yin and yang of sustainability, value creation and risk. Here's a sneak preview.
The green bond market, according to the Wall Street Journal late last year, could be worth over $2 trillion by 2023, which is only 18 months away. We all know that sustainability is not just about being green, but increasingly it's the social aspects as well. It's how you treat people.
It's about looking back, what have we done, but also forward. What can we do differently?
So the good news is that these standards are actually converging, which will actually make it easier for organizations to generate sustainability reports that are actually comparable. It's important to keep it concise. If you can keep it under 100 pages, then you're doing well, and also keep it balanced.
Barbara and Martin discuss how value creation and risk are essential elements to balanced reporting by drawing upon first-hand insights regarding integrated as well as TCFD reporting. With that, let's get started.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of our webinars, Straight from the Horse's Mouth. And today is about the yin and yang of sustainability, value creation and risk. And as a guest speaker, not so much a guest anymore, is Martin Fryer, because he joined us about a month ago. Welcome again, Martin. Before I hand over to Martin, I'll just set the scene with just a few of the key elements of the two sites. What do you see here? I can say 5 people and always 2 of them talking to each other. But it's only if you look at the black and the white in the image. And that really is 2 sides. The same as in any sustainability aspect. It's about, and reporting, it's about looking back. What have we done? But also forward. What can we do differently? It's 2 sides. It's the grey rhino or the black swan. If you look at our risks, is it a risk that we know is there, but still we don't take it really seriously? Or is there the black swan that is always around? We're very aware of it. The 2 sides of risks. When it comes to reporting, it's always quite important to be current, talk about timely events, what's happening right now, but also what is timeless in a way, what is governed in our values that really is continuing on. It's our ongoing story, our long-term mission and vision for the organization. Again, it's 2 sides. And another contrast, and that we want to really focus on today, is on what the value creation, what value do we create for the business, but also in other areas, value for our people, value for the communities, and what are the risks that we are taking as a business, also the risks that we are causing as a business. And that to me is the yin and the yang and the balance, which we also need in reporting. It's about risks and opportunities. It's about review and planning. It's about what are we investing? It's the money we're spending, but it's the value that we're creating. What do we get back? And it's the impact that we have, but also what can we do to be regenerative, to restore some of that value. To me, these are the 2 sides, and there are quite a few different reporting mechanisms, reporting frameworks around that actually encompass that quite nicely. And Martin is going to talk us through some of those, and we'll talk a lot, I think, about the balance in reporting. So Martin joined us as our head of impact and strategy for New Zealand. And he has 15 years of experience of doing exactly that in the corporate world, most recently at Mercury Energy, and before that at Auckland Airport, and in a number of other roles across various industries as an environmental manager. And now we can benefit from all his experience and share that with a wide range of our clients and with you out there. And with that, over to you, Martin.
Thank you, Barbara. Kia ora tātou. Welcome, everybody. What I thought I'd do was actually start the discussion really at the global level. So this graphic is produced each year by the World Economic Forum, who look at top global risks by likelihood. And they publish the report each year at the beginning of the year. And it's obvious from the graphic there that actually global risks have essentially been turning increasingly green, particularly over the past kind of 3 to 4 years. Obviously, things like extreme weather, human environmental damage, biodiversity loss are increasingly in people's minds. And climate action failure is an interesting use of language. So it's actually our failure to address climate action or take action on climate change, which is seen as a global risk. It's a useful kind of tool, actually, for thinking about sustainability disclosures, but we all know that sustainability is not just about being green. It's not just about the environmental aspects of your organization and your organization's performance, but increasingly it's the social aspects as well. It's how you treat people, and it's the governance within your organization to manage these increasingly kind of detailed and broad risks that are required for a sustainability framework or strategy. Risk around climate change has actually seen a real shift in financial markets. So global financial systems are responding to that. The green bond market, according to the Wall Street Journal, late last year could be worth over $2 trillion by 2023, which is only 18 months away. The green financial instruments are seen as a way of meeting the needs of environmentalism and capitalism simultaneously. And the rapid growth in sustainability-related financial instruments sees them now include climate bonds, social bonds, sustainability bonds, and they will continue to grow in importance and in terms of the areas that are looked at. But for each sustainability risk, there is a corresponding opportunity. And recently, as well as seeing that significant shift into renewable energy investments as an example, because that's seen as the solution to climate change, finance is being transferred into far more sustainable long-term investment products, which is really positive. However, it's also kind of revealed a real gap in the quality of the reporting of actual impacts of these investments. And they're falling short because of a lack of kind of detailed and real quality data, particularly in the areas that are less tangible, particularly in the areas of sort of social and environmental performance. And that could be a risk for any organization starting their sustainability reporting journey, or even if you are kind of well practiced in sustainability reporting, is how do you continue to develop it to improve your disclosures and improve the transparency of those disclosures, so you continue to engage with your stakeholders and take them with you on your sustainability journey. Thankfully, we've got some help. Sustainability reporting frameworks and standards have been around for quite some time. On the slide there, the Global Reporting Initiative was actually established way back in 1990. So that is a reporting framework, but sitting behind it are very, very detailed reporting standards that are sector specific. And they're a really useful guide, if you like, for different sectors to start to understand the areas where they need to disclose, and also the kind of depth of information that they might need to attain to be totally transparent about their performance. SASB, the Sustainable Accounting Standards Board, very, very similar, founded a little bit later in 2011. But again, it's a reporting framework with a series of very detailed standards sitting behind it. The Integrated Reporting Framework established in 2011, and it was actually established as a pilot program business network, but it involves some of the big organizations such as Unilever, Coca-Cola, Microsoft. And at the heart of the integrated reporting framework is the realization that with this wide range of factors that determine the value of an organization, some of these are financial, tangible, easy to account for in financial statements, such as property or cash, while others are less tangible. How do you measure and report on the intellectual property within your organization? If you're an organization that relies on natural resources, how do you capture your performance in terms of ensuring those resources are there for the long term? So the integrated reporting framework introduced this new language of value creation and value erosion. It introduced the language of capitals, capitals that flow as inputs into an organization and through to outcomes, not just for the organization, but for the stakeholders involved in that organization as well. Very recently, in fact, earlier this year, the International Integrated Reporting Council and SASB have joined forces to create the Value Reporting Foundation. So the good news is that these standards are actually converging, which will actually make it easier for organizations to generate sustainability reports that are actually comparable. The other one there is CDP, formerly known as the Carbon Disclosure Project. That has been around since about 2000, so over 20 years. Initially, that focused on climate change, but now has moved into water and forests and doesn't just cover corporates, but it covers governments and cities as well. The IFRS, International Financial Reporting Standards, are the standards that are used by corporations to produce the financial statements. And IFRS are now working alongside the Value Reporting Foundation. So it's that accounting profession and the sustainability profession actually coming together to make reporting even easier. In 2015, the Financial Stability Board created a specific task force on climate-related financial disclosures, primarily because they saw the potential risk, long-term risk of a changing climate on financial systems around the world. So TCFD has been created. The framework was actually released just 4 years ago in 2017, and it's based around 4 key themes. So what sort of governance do you have in place around climate change? If you're a large organization, where does responsibility lie? Is it at board level? Is it a board committee? If you're a smaller organization, is it your CEO or the leadership team? And the next theme is the strategy. So how are you building climate change risk into your business strategies and financial planning, particularly where the impacts might be material on your business? How is it integrated into your risk management frameworks? They're looking to see that risks that are identified are then actually managed and appear in operational systems within an organization. And increasingly important are the metrics and targets around your own carbon footprint. And we've seen quite a shift in the need for transparent and auditable disclosures in that area. So here in New Zealand, TCFD is now regulated. It will affect 200 organizations across the country, and it is a comply or explain regime, with compliance essentially being required by 2023, which isn't a huge amount of time, but it does give organizations time to prepare their disclosures. And from my own experience, it does take a couple of years to actually develop TCFD disclosures to a certain level of maturity. So the XRB are developing a standard here for New Zealand, which will be an auditable standard. And interestingly, they've gone back to the yin and yang of risks and opportunities. So it's asking organizations to look at the transitional risks around changing policy and regulation, whether there are legal implications, how it might actually affect your organization in terms of reputation, what's happening within your market. Is that actually going to be impacted by climate change? And what's the impact on your response to climate change from new technologies? As well as transitional risks, as we move to that low carbon economy, there are also the physical risks and opportunities. So that's the risks and opportunities around the physically changing climate. And those are divided up in terms of acute, so extreme weather events that might actually happen in the very short to medium term, as well as the kind of chronic events, which are much slower hopefully to materialize, but they're things like changing weather patterns, which might take, decades to actually eventuate. Thankfully, we've got some really good examples of both integrated reporting and TCFD disclosures. The example there, Sanford and NZ Post, two really good organizations in terms of their integrated reports, really good examples of the business model that's required for an integrated report and also value chain disclosures. And on the TCFD side of things, it's interesting to see that within New Zealand, the energy sector seems to have been taking a bit of a lead in this area. So Contact and Mercury have been using the TCFD framework in their annual reports for a number of years now. And Meridian have actually taken that additional step and published a separate TCFD disclosure. In terms of integrated reporting, it's actually about just changing the language. It's about value creation and erosion, which equates to risk and opportunity. They use the language of integrated capitals, which are essentially the resources and relationships around your business. It is quite easy to create silos by looking at those elements individually, but the report or the narrative should actually reflect the integrated nature of risks and opportunities for your organization and the integrated thinking that you're undertaking as well. And a common complaint is that integrated reports and sustainability reports are way too long. It's important to keep it concise. If you can keep it under 100 pages, then you're doing well, and also keep it balanced. So it's not all good news. There is a balance of some, not necessarily bad news, but areas where there's room for improvement. In terms of TCFD, use the themes and the framework that the guidance provides, so you can actually use that as a template to understand your level of maturity and the areas that you might need to focus on to develop your understanding and the understanding within your organization and subsequently your disclosures. And I think the top tips, the first one would be never to see this just as a reporting exercise. It is a real opportunity to develop useful intelligence for your business. If it's done well, sustainability reporting will present opportunities to improve your governance of risk. It'll provide an opportunity for you to review your existing risk management systems. It will certainly help in terms of organizational development. And if you are looking at those broad aspects of environmental and social performance, then it's a real opportunity for you to engage with your people and your broader stakeholders as well. Never ever see it just as a ticking the boxes or a tick box exercise, because that will just lead to the really the dullest kind of sustainability disclosures and will not engage with the stakeholders as you would wish. Thank you for your attention, and we'll take some questions.
Thank you very much, Martin. There is an immediate question that someone posted, and that is, if you want to do TCFD reporting in your business, what's your recommendation on who needs to be involved from the organization to actually get this underway?
It obviously depends on the size of your organization, but if you have a sustainability manager or a sustainability team, they need to work alongside a risk team or the person in charge of risk, also the financial team, because essentially TCFD is actually looking at financial disclosures. So it is taking those risks and opportunities and trying to evaluate them from a financial perspective. And it is a disclosure. So obviously your communications team would also be an essential part of that process. So those are four to begin with. I think those four would be the crucial ones.
So really a cross-functional team across the organization.
Yeah.
Thank you. Gail has a question, and that is, do we think there's a risk that TCFD will drive a silo approach to climate risks and cause perverse outcomes? For example, diverting attention from complex ecosystem connections and biodiversity loss?
That's a really good question. And in a way, the TCFD disclosures are quite prescriptive in that it is actually looking at those risks and opportunities purely from a business sense. So yes, that is a potential risk. However, one would hope that the organizations that are involved in having to disclose to those regulations, because of their size and their understanding of the broader sustainability risks around their organization or operations, you would hope that they would actually include those in that risk assessment. So it is a risk, but hopefully it would be managed.
I think I could add to that, thank you, Martin, and that TCFD, of course, is one element of reporting. And if you do an integrated or a GRI compliant report, then of course there are other elements that have to be in. And well, actually in our next webinar, we'll talk about the 7 values of materiality assessment, and biodiversity or ecosystems might well come up as a material issue for your organization. And then you'd actually have to report on that as well. Maybe not as part of TCFD, but in your general reporting. So in our next webinar, that's on the 4th of August, we'll talk about the value of materiality and how that is influencing and also used in reporting. We do have one other question, and that is, you've mentioned the size of companies. Martin, would you know what sized companies are required in New Zealand with the XRB, or is it all businesses?
No, it's actually, there is I think it's a financial threshold of around about $1 billion. So it is actually only affecting 200 organizations. So that's large corporates, financial institutions, crown entities. So it is not all organizations. There is a size threshold.
And there is one other question from Gail again. That is, transparency of social environmental outcomes will make a difference, but in addition, what do we think the role of governments are to develop and deploy financial instruments to incentivize environmentally responsible business practices? Is this realistic, or will short-term political thinking get in the way? Well, Gail, I think we could all argue all afternoon and have a wonderful panel discussion around that. Martin, do you have an initial thought, or?
Oh, just briefly, yes. Again, a fantastic question. Look, government has actually introduced this regulation around TCFD. We're the first country in the world to do that, so that is showing some leadership. If that leadership is then transposed into how the government itself operates in terms of its procurement practices, etc., and the broader regulation that it could introduce to kind of support this transition to a low carbon future, then hopefully there'll be a catalyst for actually more sustainable outcomes.
Yes, thank you. No, that's a really good point. And Gail, you should join us on the panel. Another good contribution from you is that there is the Task Force for Nature-related Financial Disclosures just around the corner as well. So answering your own question earlier, yes, TCFD might be climate, but there are other reporting mechanisms like the Task Force for Nature-related Financial Disclosures. So thanks for this addition. I think that's it with immediate questions. We will both be available if you do have further questions coming up later on. And just a heads up, on the 4th of August, again, we'll be talking about materiality assessment and integrated reporting with Peter Longdale, who's General Manager Sustainability at Sanford. And with that, thank you very much, everyone. Thanks again, Martin, and we're very much looking forward to seeing you next time. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.